Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Emma and Georgia. Today we are watching Squid Game, clues about number 1 that we might have missed. If you want to watch our uncut reactions, links to the Patreon is down below.
I'm really excited for this because this was a twist that we did not see coming, and I feel like these clues are going to put it all into place for us, but it's also going to make me feel really stupid for not noticing the signs, probably.
I know, it was in our face most of the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you're watching it, you're so distracted by the games, the people. You don't think to look around and see if there's any clues that are literally staring at you in the face.
To be honest, we should have known he was a psychopath from the first episode when he was grinning while people were getting murdered around him.
Yeah. We just thought he was a bit of a screw loose old man, because you know he's getting on. He's not well. So we thought, you know what, he's just a bit high on life until the end. We did not realise, obviously, the mastermind he is behind all this. And the little Easter eggs in this show that you miss the first time. And you only hear about it after on Twitter.
Yeah,
and you're like,
this probably won't be in this video. We saw an article and it was about how everyone's death was foreshadowed in episode 2, and that literally blew our minds because that is insane. It's such clever storytelling as well, like praise to the writers for that. And if you picked up on it as well, praise to you as well, because we didn't. Like, the only parallel I saw was Sang-woo trying to kill himself and then him actually killing himself, but all the other stuff, like 456 swearing on his mother's life and then his mum died, and then sae-byeok threatening a man with a knife to his throat and then she died with her throat slit. Like, that stuff is mental to me, but I love that it's there. It just shows how much work has gone into making this show and why it's so good.
Okay, so did you know that the players in Squid Game could have actually seen what games they'd be playing before they even played them? Between the matches, the characters were all placed into a room filled with bunk beds, and though this seemed just like a rest area, if you look at the walls, they're actually filled with significant markings. As the beds get slowly stripped away, it's revealed that these paintings are actually all of the games that the players
How did we not notice that?
First is red light, green light.
What?
There's also the honeycomb.
I know,
it's
so obvious.
That's so clear as day.
And lastly, the titular Squid Game. The series itself is filled with clues to the eventual reveals, and this is also the case with the player
riots were going on. Should I pause
It's absolutely mind-blowing.
When the riots were going on and Duk-soo just went ham on people and everyone was dying, when the lights were flashing, I did see like some markings on the walls, but I didn't pay close enough attention to it.
Really?
I just thought it's a bit weird. There's a stick man on the wall, like a bit weird. I don't know. I saw that, but I was like, oh, okay, you know, it's just the wallpaper, I guess.
Oh, you noticed that in such a like high tense scene as well. But it just showed there, like when they went in, just the three of them, and all the beds were gone. It's literally like the whole shot is them.
Yes. The storyboard of the whole show is literally right there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh my god, that makes me feel so unobservant.
And throughout this video, we're going to be breaking it all down, but I just want to give a huge spoiler alert for the series. If you haven't checked it out, then this is your chance to quit playing. But if you want to continue, then I hope you thumbs up the video and also subscribe
why are
to
you
the
watching
channel.
this if you haven't
Without
finished
the way,
it?
thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into Squid Game.
Oh my god, I love
Okay,
this
so at the
merch.
end of Squid Game, we learn that it was Il-nam all along. The final episode reveals that he invented the games as a form of entertainment for him and his rich buddies who had become bored with life. We learn that he had actually got involved in the one that we see in the show because he was dying and wanted a final bit of fun in his life before it was too late. The ending was absolutely incredible, and the scene had Ji-hun saying goodbye to the character as he lay on his deathbed. This last meeting actually reflected their first one, in which he too encountered the character as he sat in a bed. It was a pretty big twist that pulled the rug out from under your feet, but eagle-eyed viewers might have spotted early on that there were several clues pointing towards his true identity. Now, the first one is that he is number 1, the very first player. If we look at the subtext of the series, Ji-hun is the final number, and throughout we watch as he very much works his way to first place, aka Il-nam. In the final episode, he's left as number 1. He inherits a large portion of the character's fortune and comes face to face with him in one of the final scenes. One is symbolic on a number of levels, and because it's the first place, it also hints to us that Il-nam is number one and that he's the one controlling everything. In episode 5, Wang Jun-ho
so.
sneaks through the compound,
Yeah, that's a bit
and
of a
he
reach.
eventually finds a
but-
story
Yeah,
of
that
the
one's
files
not
of all the
exactly,
games
like,
that have happened
obvious.
over the decades. Upon opening the 2021,
This
the first
one,
player there
this
is
one we
actually
should have
number 2,
known.
and Il-nam's profile
Yeah,
is
we should have
Literally-
noticed that.
there is no fight
Like
for
the
number one
photo
because
at
he
first
doesn't
glance,
need or
you
want to keep
obviously
a
know
record for
that's not
himself.
number one.
The
Yeah.
other players in the game also somewhat hint towards us that something is off with Il-nam, and though it's not too obvious, when you really think about it, he wouldn't be someone that would be selected for the process. Everyone else in the Squid Game is roughly the same age, whereas he's extremely elderly. He's also dying of a brain
Extremely
tumour,
elderly.
and thus, even if he did win the life-changing
Can we
money,
pause?
it-
I was thinking, like, as we were watching the show, I wanted to know his motivations behind joining the game besides his death. Like, besides his brain tumour. Because I was wondering how he'd got so far into debt at such an old age. And, like, I wanted to hear more about his money
Yeah.
problems. Because we saw everyone else in episode 2 and we didn't see him. And I thought they were just saving this as some big emotional moment. Then I kind of forgot about it after he died. But yeah, it is weird that we didn't see him in episode 2 when we saw everyone else like go home.
Yeah, we didn't see that at all. And I don't know, when we first were introduced number one, I just assumed that he was in debt because of medical bills. I guess we
True.
put that our own assumptions on things without actually knowing the truth.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part that plays in this, because obviously you don't know everyone's reason for being in the Squid Game, like the reason they're in debt and stuff. I just put it down to health. Your mind puts that together, but you know, it's gotta look deeper into these things and realise he's a rich snob.
Yeah.
won't last that long. Though he gives his reasons as to why he wants it, from what we know about the games and the players that have been selected in the past, they're all roughly between 20 and 40, and he's a complete outlier in all of this. Now the games themselves
Yeah,
are
he's
also
much
major
older, isn't he?
giveaways too. Throughout the series we watched, as he said, they were all things that he'd played as a child, and in retrospect it becomes blatantly obvious that he selected them himself because they're what he knows. On repeat viewings, it's clear that each of them are something that he not only played as a kid, but they're also things that he's very, very good at. Now the first thing they play is red light, green light. Whilst the other players are absolutely terrified for their lives, he gleefully struts about whilst the Terminator's back is turned, and even stops before it looks back to face the crowd. He knows all of the lyrics to the song that the machine sings, and therefore knows to stop in advance before it ends and turns back around. If we look at the clip of the targeted players, you might also notice something different about him. The one directly to his left and all of the other ones to the side have a slight green overlay that appears over the top of them. If we look at the players to his right, outside of the girl crouching down beside him, this is also the case too. Everyone other than him in this girl's tracksuit appears slightly green, and I believe that this machine sees him without the glow because it's been programmed not to shoot him. If this theory is right, then he also has a protective ring around him that stops the machine from firing at people in his vicinity in
How
case
do they
it
come up
misses,
with this
and
kind of
that's why the girl
technology
his
to
right
do
is also
that?
safe too. Immediately
less
after this
green,
game, the
isn't he?
players decide to
Yeah.
cast a vote on whether they should end the tournament
Guess
or
so
not.
you can't be
He is the one who
sure.
makes the choice in the end and casts the deciding vote to end the game. This subtly shows his power over the entire thing, and I actually think that he carried this out for a
Yeah.
specific reason.
He
He
wanted
wanted to give the
people to
players a
come
chance
back.
to walk away from it all knowing the stakes, and if they came back then that would ease his conscience slightly as the choice was theirs. Now cut to the honeycomb game,
Yeah,
and
makes
Il-nam ends up choosing the
sense.
star. Though this seems like a very complex shape, there's not actually any bends in it like the circles or umbrellas. Though you might think it's easier to have the triangle's lines are longer, whereas the stars are shorter, so there's less to cut through before you hit an edge. Being completely honest though, yeah, the triangle is a pretty easy shape too, but Il-nam didn't exactly have one of the difficult ones either. Now next we jump to episode 4, in which a fight breaks out during the night. Throughout, Il-nam hides away from the carnage up on one of the bleachers, and he ends up begging for the fight
I
to
said
stop.
this after the
Even though up
finale.
until
I
this
picked
point,
up on
it
that
seemed like the
one.
front man was completely in control, he immediately sends the guards in because Il-nam requests it. Another clue is that his bed is the only
I
one
just
that
thought
isn't
it was
clipped,
because he was a
and this
frail
is
old
because
man
the
and they had
guards
a
likely know who
conscience.
he
Yep,
is.
it's
Next, they
very
play a game of
convenient
tug
when
of
you
war,
hear it now.
And because of their players, it seems like Il-nam's team are about to be sent to their deaths. However, he is the one who tells them how to win, and because of his guidance, they easily beat the much stronger team. Il-nam had clearly played the game hundreds of times before and knew the best strategy to take.
Yeah.
Any team with him was destined to win, and the fact his strategy works definitely proves this. The final game in which he takes part is the marbles one, and this also has a lot of clues in it. Throughout it, it seems like the character is struck by dementia, and he constantly walks around looking for his house. This game not only pulls from his childhood, but the area does too, and unless the Squid Game organisers were psychic, then they'd have no way of knowing what his home looked like. Throughout the episode, everything he says is
Yeah.
brushed
He
away as the
constructed the whole
ramblings of someone
thing.
with the disease, but knowing what we know, it becomes all the more obvious that he's in control. In the end, he seems to find his home, and personally, I believe that this is a perfect recreation of it. He's giving the game away because throughout the entire season, he's letting us know that all of the challenges and environments are based on things from his life. He lets Ji-hun win, and the character is then seemingly killed off camera, but we know that isn't the case. If we look closely at the
I'm
gate
still
that
mad we
Ji-hun has
didn't
just
figure that
walked out
out.
of, we can see that he's no longer there.
You
and
do
though
not know
the
a
rest of the
character's
court is
dead
filled with
until you
bodies,
see it.
his is completely missing. Now, knowing what we know, a question you may have is why did Il-nam end up leaving the game at this point when he was still invested in playing? Well, the next game is the deadly hopscotch one, and this is by far the most unpredictable of the
Yeah,
lot.
there's
If
no
he
way
ended
he
up
can
getting put in
survive
last
that.
place, then there would be a danger that the person behind him could push him to his death, like what we see in the episode. There's also
He
the
would have been
possibility that due to his
such an
brain
easy
tumour,
target
he
in
may have
that.
forgotten along
Yeah,
the way
you
which
can't
glass
fix
to step
that
on,
game,
and
really.
he simply couldn't risk it. Now that is of course a theory, but overall, going back and knowing what we know, I actually think the series becomes better on a second watch. Now obviously I'd love to hear if you spotted any other ones below, and if this is your first time here, then I hope you enjoy your trip to the Heavy Spoilers show.
That sheds some light on stuff. I
He
think
really did. He really was a dark horse. Always had something up his sleeve. And it is so true when they said that he couldn't do the glass game. Because I think we even said in the recording at the time of watching it, like, can you imagine number one doing this?
and maybe
wouldn't have
that's
stood a
why.
chance.
Maybe he wanted to be on his own in the marbles, and that's why like he wasn't trying to find a partner, because the girl, she just got dragged away and then she came back later, whereas if it was him, he could have just got dragged away and not come back and no one would have suspected a thing. So yeah, that would have been a very easy get out clause there for him. I have a flaw with his logic though, because he said he wanted to play to feel alive again, and because he wanted to have some fun like he did in his youth. But how is the game any fun for him when his life isn't actually at risk? Because all the other people are there with these motion detectors on them and stuff like that, like their lives are at risk constantly, whereas he knew that he wouldn't die in any of the games. So like, how is it really that fun for him?
I think he enjoys like winning, maybe. He enjoys the concept of people dying around him while he wins the next challenge, and it just likes to be in the atmosphere of a tense game, knowing he doesn't have to worry and that the others worry.
He likes having the power that like he could mess up and survive and they won't, or something.
Yeah, I think it comes down to a lot of power, to be honest. Like he's in a position where he is favoured. He's the creator, so anything goes. He could literally tell the guards to put him in a nice room, you know. Like, he controls it, so he has nothing to worry about in theory, apart from the tug of war one. But I did see, apparently his chains weren't strapped to the rope, so if they did lose that tug of war, he wouldn't have fallen off. I did see that somewhere. I've seen the image of it when they're all lying down. I don't know, I'm not too convinced though. I'm not sure, maybe...
But then how would the other players have reacted to that? Like, the ones that were still living, they would have been like, what the hell, why is he still here?
I know. So they'll probably be like, oh, it was a fault.
But I guess if they find out he's the creator of it doesn't really matter, does it? Because they can't do anything about it, so.
No, I fooled you all.
There was some valid things in there. I think the main one is that we didn't get his backstory like we should have known, and the fact that he was smiling the whole time.
No one smiles that much in a situation like this.
Yeah. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching our reaction to clues you might have missed about Ilnam. If you want to watch our uncut reactions to the full season of Squid Game, then the link to the Patreon page will be in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Bye!